Hi, everybody. This is Lori H. Schwartz, a happy partner of the NAB Show 24, providing these show floor tours. And we're about to talk to one of our guides for the show, and that is the lovely Rachel Joy Victor, who is doing our AI and machine learning tour. And I'm so excited for this tour. It's the first time we're doing this. Rachel comes from a fantastic company called Fabric, and she's going to tell you all about it. So here is the fabulous Rachel Joy Victor. Hello, Rachel. You're my favorite three names person.
Thank you. That's a high honor.
So tell us all about Fabric and how you're going to apply what you're doing in the world to what we're going to be seeing on the NAB show floor.
Yeah, Fabric is really hyper targeted. We're focused on AI and media and entertainment, and specifically on how can AI support new workflows, new tools to introduce efficiency into the content production process. So, taking some of that knowledge, we're going to bring that onto the NAB show floor, talk about which companies are developing really interesting AI tool applications, go over that. And I think in the process, also really dig into how the production process is changing, where there are new like emerging workflows, as well as how content consumption behaviors are changing, and where those two things intersect.
Oh, that sounds so great. This is the first time actually that we're ever doing at NAB a sort of real deep dive into one specific area of technology. We have wider tours. And the reason that we did this is that everyone obviously is talking about AI. But why do you think right now that, AI is really so super hyped? I mean, it's moving really fast, but especially in the business category of media and entertainment. Why is it such a buzz?
Yeah, I always like to clarify that, if you're newer to it, it looks like AI popped on the scene like 2 years ago, but AI has been a thing for a while, just in different forms. When we talk about AI, a lot of times we're talking about machine learning. Machine learning has been in production tools for a long time, introducing, efficiency into the process. What's really kind of brought a lot of attention to it recently, though, is where we're at in terms of generative content. Generative content has really reached a point where it's so much more consumer ready. There's so much more you can really do with it nowadays. So out of that kind of new interest and focus on generative content, there's now the ability for new pipelines, new types of workflows that lean into that type of generative forward workflow. And then another category where we're seeing a lot of development that has been kind of slower developing, but really is pretty interesting, is around procedural content, where there's more kind of inbuilt rules-based AI that's able to respond to interactivity, that's able to respond to unique user input. And that really ties into what we're seeing in the broader story of media and entertainment, with gaming, with location-based entertainment, all of those fields that are really growing.
Well, now I know that you have been a speaker for me in previous years at NAB, and I'm just wondering, why do you think it's such an important show right now for companies to attend and to explore a show floor tour so they can dig in more?
Yeah, I think NAB as a whole, obviously is kind of the main like trade show to go to really know what's happening in the media and entertainment space specifically. I think the show tours really help break that down, though, because NAB can be kind of intimidating. There's so much floor space to cover. There's so many things happening, and obviously there are interesting announcements from big companies, but there are also like smaller companies doing neat things that can get lost in the mix. So I think the show tours really help to narrow that down, to curate that so that it's less intimidating and you can know the important things to focus on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Have you noticed in going, I know you were there last year, are there any, changes in terms of, how people are perceiving the technologies? Because it used to be very, it was all under broadcast and then digital. Now AI is like a whole other thing. Do you have to like land people and kind of say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater? We're still telling stories here, like, is that a big fear for everybody? Oh my God, I have to start all over again, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think with a technology like AI, it can seem like it's introducing, changes that are very radically different, which obviously brings some fear with it. And I think that's one reason I'm kind of excited about doing this tour is it's the ability to kind of break down, hopefully, some of those misconceptions of, or to kind of level set a little bit. Because I think on one hand, there are people that are like, nothing is going to change, or don't quite know the extent to which things are going to change. And on the other hand, there are people that are like, we can make a whole TV show with a click of a button now with AI, and that's a little bit extreme. So I think, to really understand where AI is going, we need to obviously see how companies are implementing it, but also understand on a slightly deeper level how the technology really works so that we can know where kind of the what the kind of breaking points are, or what it's difficult for it to do, or what it's good at doing, right? So I think that will give us a more realistic sense of really where AI is headed and how it will start being incorporated in a real way. And I'm hoping that in our tour, we're going to be digging into that. I'm excited for people to get that fuller picture.
I think also sharing your background with everybody is really interesting because feel like you represent a newer resource in this world that maybe people have never thought about before. And I'm talking about your story worlding background and vision. Could you share a little bit of that? Because that to me spills into why AI tools are so important. They represent tools, but you still have to be strategic about how you leverage the tools. So can you explain story worlding?
Yeah. So my background academically was in neuroscience and spatial economics, but I really want to bring that into storytelling, especially into like interactive and immersive storytelling. And so the neuroscience part really helped me start thinking about like how are we designing for the individual, for their experience, and how they see content and how they see the world. But I also worked as a creative lead at Alex McDowell's studio. He was the production designer for Minority Report. He runs a world building studio. And that perspective really introduced me to the other side of things. Of yes, we have to design for the user, but we also need to design the world. We need to design the context. We need to use systems design to really think about the different ways to act in like a narrative story world context, and really build those story worlds in a realistic way, both in terms of narrative logic, in terms of the spatial design, in terms of all of these other, different elements. And in that context, it's really interesting to see, like, with story worlds at the center, you have, especially if you're building those story worlds using real time volumetric tools with procedural AI as a part of it, you can have, this piece of content that can then live across film and TV, that can live across gaming or location based entertainment or virtual worlds. But at the heart of it, you're kind of aiding that process with, rules based AI at the center. But when you're using rules based AI, you really still need the human element, right? You need the human element to think through the logic of how those systems operate and how they plug into each other. And AI can fill in a lot of the gaps and have, and step in the middle. But there's still that kind of human collaboration as a part of that process. So I think that's one thing we'll cover is like where are those handoffs, right? Like AI does really good at some things, but when it comes to that higher order logic, not so good at that. And so it is going to require humans that are able to think in a systems based way, that are able to think in terms of information architecture and the logic of these systems to know how to harness AI fully.
I just sometimes love hearing you talk because it reminds me that you can be smart and work in media and entertainment.
Just like you, Lori.
But and just one of the things that I did want you to just mention, just as we round out this sort of call to action to come take a tour, and especially this AI and machine learning tour, is this idea that you don't have to be afraid of AI. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that, because I know you hear a lot of people saying I have to start all over, or I'm overwhelmed, or I have to get trained, and I'd love to hear sort of what you advice you give to companies who are freaking out right now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think things are going to change with AI. I think, especially the first couple years are going to be a little scary because I think companies are going to overcorrect and think that they can do everything with AI before realizing that no,
Yeah.
you can't, and that
Yeah.
actually that's a bad idea. But I think, when things level out a bit, we'll start to see that divide between like, hey, here are the things AI can do well, here are the things humans can do well. I think that the one thing to keep in mind though is to really lean into that. It does take, playing around with the tools, because it's going to be humans working with AI that have the next category of jobs, right? So it starts with the small steps. It starts with, playing with ChatGPT, playing with Midjourney, using some of these tools, and then seeing how you can go a level deeper, right? Of like, okay, what happens if I use a GPT playground instead of just ChatGPT to understand a little better the logic behind these systems? Or what happens if I use a comfy UI to play with diffusion models instead of playing with Midjourney, which kind of puts it all behind puts the logic behind these tools. What happens if I start like playing with the logic directly, right? So going a step deeper is how you'll start to understand the logic behind these tools and know better how to leverage it moving forward.
That's an awesome explanation. So we're going to be seeing you on the show floor at
Yep, I'll be
NAB
there.
2024, giving us our first really down the well category tour, the AI and machine learning tour. And obviously you'll be there talking to folks and available to dig into all of these great topics. So Rachel Joy Victor from Fabric, we so appreciate your time, and I can't wait to see how this incredible tour manifests.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to being there.